I sat there quietly while my wife of 18 years called me lazy, useless, a dead weight who never amounted to anything. The man standing next to her, the one she'd been meeting in secret for 14 months, kept nodding like everything she said was gospel. 30 seconds later, the judge cleared his throat and read a single number out loud. My wife turned the color of ash, and her knees buckled so hard the bailiff jumped forward. That's how it started. Not with paperwork or an argument in the kitchen or some long drawn-out marital fight. No, it started with my wife of 18 years calling me a useless burden in front of a room full of strangers. I remember standing at the respondents' table, hands clasped in front of me, listening to Ashley's voice echo through the tall courtroom ceilings. The place smelled like old wood and industrial disinfectant, typical for the Travis County building downtown Austin. The benches creaked every time someone shifted, and I could hear a few older folks whispering behind me, probably waiting for their own cases. Ashley stood beside her attorney, Brad Davidson, a polished 40-something guy with slick hair and a suit too expensive for the kind of law he practiced. He was the type who always spoke like every word he said should be carved into stone. "Your Honor," Ashley said, forcing her voice to tremble just enough to sound victimized. "I've carried this marriage for years. Ryan doesn't contribute. He doesn't support me or our daughter. He just exists. He's dead weight, a freeloader." Brad nodded as if they'd rehearsed this in front of a mirror, which, knowing what I know now, they probably did. I didn't look at them. I just stared at a spot on the judge's bench, keeping my breathing steady. I've always been the quiet type, the kind to let people talk themselves into a hole before I bother replying, but the word freeloader hit deeper than I expected. I'd heard insults. I'd dealt with tension. We'd drifted for years, but never, not once, did she say anything like that to my face. Brad stepped forward with practiced confidence. "Your Honor, my client has endured emotional neglect and financial abandonment. She's been forced to take on household responsibilities alone. While Mr. Parker contributes very little, she seeks full custody, the marital home, and a reasonable share of assets." Reasonable share? He meant 60%. And Ashley nodded like it was nothing more than asking for a glass of water. My attorney, an older fellow named James Richardson, who looked like he'd been practicing since the Carter administration, nudged me gently. "Easy, Ryan, let it play out." But I wasn't angry, not yet, just tired. Tired in that bone-deep, weight-on-your-shoulders way that only a man in his 40s can really understand. The kind of exhaustion that comes from years of working yourself to the bone while someone you love slowly convinces herself you're worthless. Judge Martinez flipped through the paperwork, his brow wrinkling deeper with each page. The man was in his 60s, graying beard, stern, yet fair. He'd probably seen 1,000 divorce cases, but something in these documents was clearly bothering him. He adjusted his glasses, reading the financial statements carefully, then reading them again. Finally, he cleared his throat. "Mrs. Parker, Mr. Davidson," he said slowly, setting the papers down with deliberate precision. "Are you both aware that Mr. Parker reported a gross income of approximately $200,000 over the last fiscal year?" The room went very still. You could hear the air conditioning humming in the background, the soft shuffle of someone's feet in the gallery, the distant sound of traffic outside on the Congress Avenue. Ashley blinked at him as if she hadn't heard correctly. Her perfectly applied makeup couldn't hide the confusion spreading across her face. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice cracking slightly. "How much?" $200,000, the judge repeated, louder this time, his words carrying across the courtroom like a verdict. "And similar amounts in the previous years, according to these tax returns." Brad's face went slack like a mask slipping off. The confident attorney who'd walked in ready to carve up my life suddenly looked like a man who just realized he'd brought a knife to a gunfight. Ashley swayed on her heels and grabbed the edge of the plaintiff's table, her knuckles white against the polished wood. The judge turned toward them with genuine confusion etched into his weathered features. "So, an annual income of $200,000 is considered freeloading now?" A wave of quiet laughter rippled from the gallery. Someone in the back muttered, "Wish I freeloaded like that." Another voice added, "Sign me up for that kind of dead weight." Ashley shook her head frantically, her carefully styled blonde hair starting to come undone. "I didn't know. He never told me. He never said." I finally looked at her, really looked at her. This woman I'd shared a bed with for 18 years, who'd borne my child, who'd once laughed at my terrible jokes and fallen asleep on my shoulder during Sunday afternoon movies. Years of late-night drives home after client sites flashed through my mind. Conference calls until midnight while she slept peacefully upstairs, sleeping in airport chairs during software rollouts, missing Sarah's soccer games because a client needed me in Dallas or Houston. All those nights spent thinking I was building something for our family, creating security, ensuring Sarah could go to college without debt. And Ashley never asked. She never cared to know what those long hours meant, what those business trips accomplished, what that steady stream of direct deposits into our joint account actually represented. The judge set down the documents with a finality that seemed to echo through the room. We will need additional testimony and clarification at a second hearing. This matter is far from settled. Brad tried to recover, his practiced courtroom composure slipping back into place like an ill-fitting suit. Your Honor, if we may— No, Mr. Davidson. The judge cut him off sharply, his voice carrying the authority of decades on the bench. Based on these findings, we will reconvene in 2 weeks. Court is adjourned. The gavel struck like a firecracker in the silence. Ashley sank into her chair, staring at me like she was seeing a complete stranger. Like she was realizing that the man she'd been married to for nearly 2 decades was someone she'd never bothered to actually know. Brad whispered something harsh to her, but she didn't respond. She just kept staring at me with those wide, shocked eyes, like she was trying to solve a puzzle that had suddenly rearranged itself. I walked out of that courtroom with my shoulders straight, my breath uneven. Outside, Congress Avenue was busy with lunch traffic. A food truck rumbled by, brakes squealing. The wind carried the smell of barbecue from Franklin Barbecue down the street, mixing with the exhaust fumes and that particular Austin smell of heat and ambition. But all I could hear was her voice in my head. He's dead weight, a freeloader. Funny thing is, I'd worked night after night, year after year, thinking the long hours were worth it, that providing quietly was the same as showing love. Maybe that was my mistake. Maybe I should have made more noise about the sacrifices, demanded more recognition for the late nights and early mornings. But that wasn't who I was. I was the steady one, the reliable one, the one who just kept the machine running without expecting applause. As I reached the bottom of the courthouse steps, a pickup truck rolled past with a faded Longhorns bumper sticker. It tugged loose an unexpected memory, an old summer cookout at Zilker Park, burgers popping on the grill, Sarah running around the grass with a water balloon, Ashley laughing beside me with a paper plate in her hand, her sundress catching the breeze. That memory stung worse than the courtroom, because that version of us, that life, felt like it had died a long time ago. And maybe today was just the funeral. I stood there on the sidewalk, hands in my pockets, staring at the courthouse doors like they still had something to say. The truth was, I wasn't angry yet. Not really. But I could feel something starting inside me. A slow burn, a tightening in the chest, a need not for vengeance, but for fairness, for clarity, for truth. If they wanted to drag my name through lies, then I owed it to myself to let the truth speak louder than they ever expected. When I drove home from the courthouse that afternoon, the Texas sky was that particular shade of blue that makes everything look sharp and clear, like someone had turned up the contrast on the world. I took the long way home through Westlake Hills, past the strip malls and newer developments, past the H-E-B we used to shop at on Sunday mornings when Sarah was small, back when grocery shopping was a family adventure instead of a chore. I didn't want to go home right away. The house in Cedar Park suddenly felt unfamiliar, like a place that used to mean something but didn't anymore, like walking into a museum of your own life. By the time I pulled into the driveway, the October heat had started to fade, and you could smell that first hint of cooler weather coming. Texas doesn't do fall like other places, but there's always that one day in October when the air changes, when you can feel winter lurking somewhere in the distance. I sat in the car for a moment, gripping the steering wheel, replaying everything Ashley had said in court. A freeloader, dead weight, just existing. It was strange how quickly 18 years could shrink into one ugly sentence, how a life's work could be dismissed with a few cruel words spoken in anger. Inside the house, everything felt too quiet. The air conditioning hummed softly, cycling on and off with mechanical precision. The scent of Ashley's vanilla candle lingered in the air, that expensive one she'd bought at some boutique in downtown Austin. I walked through the living room, stopping by the hallway wall where we kept family photos. Christmas at my parents' house in Houston, all of us crowded around the tree in matching pajamas. Sarah's middle school graduation, her braces glinting in the camera flash. A 4th of July barbecue at Zilker Park. The Austin skyline glowing in the background as fireworks exploded overhead. Standing there looking at all of them, it hit me how far we drifted. Not in one big moment, but slowly, inch by inch. The way a foundation settles unevenly over time until cracks finally show in the walls. The way erosion works, so gradual you don't notice until something important has washed away. People like to think marriages fall apart because of something dramatic. One big blow-up, or a single betrayal, or some movie-worthy confrontation. But ours didn't. It crumbled in silence, worn down by 1,000 small neglects. 1,000,000 tiny failures to connect. I met Ashley back in our early 20s at UT Austin. She was studying interior design. I was grinding through business classes and working nights at a computer repair shop near campus. We were both broke, driven, proud, and young enough to think love alone could fix anything that went wrong. We moved to Cedar Park after I landed my first sales job with a medical device company near Round Rock. The starting salary was $38,000, which felt like winning the lottery after years of ramen noodles and shared apartments with too many roommates. Those early years were simple in the way that poverty can make things simple. Cheap furniture from garage sales, late-night pizza from Little Caesars, road trips to San Antonio because we couldn't afford to fly anywhere. Sarah's birth at Dell Children's Hospital on a rainy Tuesday in March. Ashley gripping my hand so hard I thought she might break my fingers. We struggled, sure, but we struggled together. Every bill paid felt like a victory. Every small luxury, dinner at Chili's, a movie at the Dollar Theater, a new outfit for Sarah, felt earned. I remember us sitting on the floor of our first apartment, nothing but lawn chairs and a mattress, eating Whataburger and laughing at some terrible movie on the old tube TV I'd rescued from a client. Those were the days that made sense, when we were building something together instead of just existing in the same space. Somewhere along the line, work took over my life. I didn't mean for it to happen, didn't plan it that way. I thought I was doing the right thing, thought I was being responsible. The moment things started slipping was probably around the time my territory expanded to cover the whole Southwest. Suddenly, I wasn't just handling Austin and San Antonio. I was responsible for Dallas, Houston, Phoenix, sometimes even Denver when they needed extra coverage. I'd get home at midnight after driving back from Dallas, the house dark except for the porch light Ashley always left on. She'd be asleep with her back turned toward my side of the bed, and I'd slip in quietly, trying not to wake her. We'd barely talk on weekdays except for the logistics of daily life. Who's picking up Sarah? What's for dinner? Did you pay the electric bill? She'd say I wasn't present anymore. I'd say I was doing this for us, for Sarah's college fund, for the house we'd always wanted. Neither of us really listened to what the other was saying. We were having two different conversations, talking past each other instead of to each other. I started playing in a weekend golf league when I could, just to decompress from the constant travel and client demands. It was nothing fancy. A municipal course in Round Rock, where a round cost $30 and the beer was cold even if the greens were patchy. Ashley came with me for a while, bringing a book and sitting in the cart while I played with the other guys. Then she stopped coming. When she did show up, I could tell she felt disconnected, like she was standing in a room where everyone spoke a different language. The other wives talked about their husbands' jobs, their kids' activities, vacation plans. Ashley would smile and nod, but I could see her checking her phone, counting the minutes until we could leave. People assumed the affair was the beginning of the end, but honestly, it was just the symptom. The real ending started long before Brad Davidson entered our lives. It started in the space between us that grew a little wider every month, filled with things we didn't say and needs we didn't meet. I first noticed something was off on a Thursday evening in March. Ashley came home late from what she said was helping her. Sister Kelly with some legal paperwork. She smelled different, not just her usual perfume, but something else underneath it, something expensive and masculine. Her cheeks were flushed in that way they used to get when we were dating, and she was excited about something. When I asked if everything was okay with Kelly, she snapped at me like I'd accused her of a crime. "Why are you interrogating me?" she said, her voice sharp in a way that made me step back. "Can I help my family without getting the 3rd degree?" After that, the excuses multiplied like weeds after rain. working late at the design firm, even though she was only part-time, meeting friends for drinks, though she'd never been much of a drinker, helping Kelly with various legal issues that seemed to require an awful lot of evening meetings. Then there was the book club. Ashley had never been much of a reader beyond design magazines and celebrity gossip, but suddenly she'd joined this book club that met every Tuesday evening. Except when I asked what they were reading, she'd get vague and change the subject. "Oh, women's fiction stuff. You wouldn't be interested." Then came the phone calls she'd take in the hallway, stepping out of whatever room I was in like I had some kind of contagious disease. The phone always faced down on the counter. The lingering smiles she'd try to hide when she typed responses to text messages that seemed to come at all hours. I didn't want to be the jealous husband. I didn't want to become one of those guys who checks his wife's phone, or follows her car, or hires a private investigator. But it's amazing how loudly silence can speak when a marriage is dying. How many small betrayals can pile up before you start to notice the weight? The night everything clicked wasn't dramatic. There was no catching her in a lie, no smoking gun moment like in the movies. It happened because of our Ring doorbell, of all things. We'd installed it after a rash of package thefts in the neighborhood. Nothing major, just Amazon deliveries going missing. But Ashley wanted the security of being able to see who was coming and going. The irony wasn't lost on me later. I was reviewing the footage on a random Tuesday because UPS claimed they had delivered a package that never showed up. That's when I saw it, Brad Davidson's car, his unmistakable silver BMW with the vanity plates that read Lawyer 1, pulling into our driveway at 2:30 in the afternoon. Ashley was supposed to be at the design firm until 5. She'd specifically told me she had client meetings all afternoon and might be home late. But there she was on the grainy black and white footage, letting him into our house, both of them laughing like teenagers skipping school. I watched the timestamp roll forward, 2:31, 2:32, 2:33. They were inside for exactly 2 hours and 17 minutes. At 4:47, Brad left first, straightening his tie as he walked to his car. Ashley appeared in the doorway, checking the street in both directions before closing the door. I sat in my office chair, staring at the video on my phone, my hands trembling slightly. Not with anger, not yet, but with something deeper. A mixture of heartbreak and exhaustion, and that terrible clarity that comes when something you've been trying not to know finally forces itself into the light. When I got home that evening, I found Ashley already in bed with a book, wearing her reading glasses and the oversized t-shirt she always slept in. She looked up when I walked into the bedroom, gave me that same smile she'd been giving me for months. Warm, but distant. Familiar, but somehow empty. "How was your day?" she asked, marking her place in the book with her finger. "Fine," I said. "How were your client meetings?" "Oh, you know how it is. Mrs. Henderson wants to redo her entire kitchen again. Some people have more money than sense." I stood in the doorway for a long time, looking at her. The woman I'd married, the mother of my child, lying to my face with the same ease most people use to comment on the weather. I could have ended everything that night, confronted her right there in our bedroom, with the Ring footage pulled up on my phone, but I was too numb to feel anything beyond a hollow ache in my chest. So, I did what I always do when life gets complicated. I worked, and I watched, and I listened. The next few days passed in a strange fog of normalcy. Ashley made coffee in the mornings, chatted about Sarah's upcoming school events, complained about traffic on Mopac like nothing had changed. But now I was watching her differently, noticing things I'd been too busy or too trusting to see before. How she checked her phone constantly, always angling the screen away from me. How she'd suddenly started caring about her appearance again, buying new clothes, going to the salon more often, hitting the gym with renewed enthusiasm. How she'd developed this habit of taking showers immediately when she got home from her book club meetings. A week after the Ring footage discovery, I was checking our shared iCloud account to find some photos Sarah needed for a school project about family history. That's when I saw the automatic photo sync Ashley had forgotten to turn off. Pictures from restaurants I'd never been to. The interior of what looked like an expensive hotel bar. A selfie of Ashley in a bathroom mirror, wearing a dress I'd never seen, her hair and makeup done like she was going to a wedding. But the image that hit me like a punch to the stomach was a photo of 2 wine glasses on a white tablecloth, taken from Ashley's perspective across a candlelit table. You could just see the edge of a man's hand in the frame, wearing a distinctive gold ring with what looked like a law school insignia. My hands went still as I stared at the timestamp. Last Tuesday. Book club night. Then I started digging deeper into our financial records, something I'd always been meticulous about but hadn't checked in months due to work demands. Our joint credit card showed a pattern I'd somehow missed. Charges at upscale restaurants around Austin, always on Tuesday evenings. The Driscoll Hotel Bar. Uchi La Barbecue. Places that cost more for one dinner than Ashley and I usually spent in a week. She'd been using our money to fund her affair, probably thinking I was too busy traveling to notice. The thought made my stomach turn, not just because of the betrayal, but because of the casual disrespect it represented. She wasn't just cheating on me, she was making me pay for it. But the smoking gun came from Ashley's Apple Watch. She'd been tracking her workouts religiously for the past year, trying to get back in shape after what she called her frumpy mom phase. I'd always admired her dedication, even bought her the premium fitness tracking subscription for her birthday. What I discovered when I looked at the GPS data made my blood run cold. Those gym sessions she'd been so proud of, the ones that happened every Tuesday and Thursday from 2 to 4 p.m., they weren't happening at the LA Fitness on Palmer Lane where she claimed to go. They were happening at the Marriott on Research Boulevard, every single time for exactly 2 hours, like clockwork. I sat in my home office at 1 a.m., surrounded by printed bank statements, screenshots, and GPS logs, feeling like a detective investigating my own life. The evidence was overwhelming and undeniable, but part of me still hoped there was some explanation that would make it all innocent. Maybe she was meeting clients there. Maybe she was helping someone plan an event. Maybe there was some reasonable explanation for why my wife of 18 years was spending 6 hours a week at a hotel with a man who wasn't me. But deep down, I knew. I'd known since that first evening when she came home smelling like expensive cologne. Everything since then had just been my heart trying to catch up with what my head already understood. The next morning, I did something I'd never done in our entire marriage. I called in sick to work and followed Ashley. I felt disgusting doing it, like some kind of stalker or obsessed ex-boyfriend. But I needed to see it with my own eyes, needed that final piece of proof that would let me stop hoping this was all some terrible misunderstanding. Ashley left the house at 1:30 p.m., telling me she was going to her trainer session and then grocery shopping. I waited 10 minutes, then drove to the Marriott, parking where I could see the main entrance. At 1:47, Ashley's white Honda Pilot pulled into the parking lot. At 1:52, Brad Davidson's silver BMW followed. They met near the elevator, Ashley looking around nervously before Brad put his hand on the small of her back and guided her inside. I sat in my truck for the full 2 hours, watching people come and go, tourists checking in, business travelers hurrying through the lobby with their rolling suitcases, normal people living normal lives while mine fell apart in a hotel parking lot. At exactly 3:54, they emerged separately. Brad first, straightening his tie and checking his phone like he was late for something important. Ashley followed 5 minutes later, her hair slightly mussed despite obvious attempts to fix it, carrying the gym bag she'd brought as a prop. They didn't kiss goodbye or even acknowledge each other. It was all very businesslike, very discreet, very practiced. This wasn't a passionate affair or a moment of weakness. This was a routine, a scheduled betrayal that had been going on for months right under my nose. I drove home in a daze, my hands gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. When Ashley got home an hour later with grocery bags from H-E-B, she kissed my cheek and asked about my day like nothing had happened. "How are you feeling, honey? You looked a little pale this morning when you called in sick." Standing in our kitchen, watching her put away groceries and hum softly to herself, I realized that the woman I'd married had become a complete stranger. Or maybe she'd always been a stranger, and I'd just been too busy working to notice. That night, I made a decision, not out of anger or hatred, but out of something colder and more methodical. If Ashley and Brad wanted to destroy me in court, I was going to let the truth defend me. I spent the next week documenting everything systematically. I bought a thick binder at Office Depot and divided it into sections with color-coded tabs. Ring doorbell footage, credit card statements, Apple Watch GPS data, iCloud photos, phone records from our family plan showing deleted text messages that had been automatically backed up. I wasn't just preparing to defend myself, I was preparing to dismantle the story they were building, piece by carefully documented piece. 2 weeks later, when I walked back into the Travis County Courthouse for the continuation hearing, I felt strangely calm, not triumphant, not vengeful, just steady like a man who had finally stopped apologizing for existing. Ashley was already seated at the plaintiff's table when I entered. She looked different, thinner, more fragile somehow. Her expensive suit couldn't hide the dark circles under her eyes, or the way her hands trembled slightly as she shuffled through papers. Brad sat beside her, but the confident attorney from 2 weeks ago had been replaced by a nervous man who kept checking his phone and wiping sweat from his forehead despite the courthouse air conditioning. James Richardson nodded to me as I sat down. "You ready for this, Ryan?" I patted the thick binder in my lap. "As ready as I'll ever be." Judge Martinez entered and settled into his chair with the same stern efficiency I remembered. "Let's proceed with the continuation of Parker versus Parker." Brad stood, but his usual courtroom swagger was noticeably absent. "Your Honor, we maintain that despite Mr. Parker's income level, there were other factors." "Mr. Davidson," the judge interrupted, "before you continue, I want to address some additional documentation that has been submitted." James stood smoothly. "Your Honor, if it pleases the court, the respondent would like to enter additional evidence regarding the financial misrepresentation and other matters affecting this case." I opened the binder with deliberate precision. Page after page of evidence lay neatly organized, each section carefully labeled and cross-referenced. "Exhibit A," James began, Ring doorbell footage showing Mrs. Parker and her attorney, Mr. Davidson, entering the marital home during weekday afternoon hours when Mrs. Parker claimed to be working. Ashley's hand flew to her throat. "James, you can't." Exhibit B, credit card statements showing charges at upscale restaurants and hotels during times Mrs. Parker claimed to be attending book club meetings or helping family members. Exhibit C, GPS data from Mrs. Parker's fitness tracker, showing workout sessions at the Marriott Hotel on Research Boulevard, rather than at LA Fitness where she claimed to exercise. Brad's face had gone completely white. He started to stand, then sat back down heavily. Exhibit D, photographs from Mrs. Parker's iCloud account showing romantic dinners and hotel visits during the time period of her alleged book club activities. And finally, Exhibit E, text message backups from the family phone plan showing deleted conversations between Mrs. Parker and Mr. Davidson discussing strategies to portray my client as financially neglectant in these proceedings. The courtroom was completely silent except for the soft hum of fluorescent lights and the distant sound of traffic outside. Judge Martinez leaned forward slowly. "Mr. Davidson, you are an officer of this court. Do you deny involvement in both this affair and the coordination of misrepresentations in these proceedings?" Brad's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. "Your Honor, that is to say..." "Mr. Davidson," the judge repeated, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. "Answer the question directly." "I may have assisted in certain aspects of case preparation," Brad finally managed, "but it was within the bounds of..." "Within the bounds of what?" Judge Martinez's voice could have cut steel. "Ethical representation? Legal procedure? Professional conduct?" Brad wilted completely. Ashley had started crying. Not the dramatic sobs she'd performed 2 weeks ago, but the quiet, broken crying of someone whose world was collapsing in real time. "I will be referring this matter to the Texas State Bar Association for immediate review," the judge announced. "Mr. Davidson, you are hereby removed from this case effective immediately." The judge turned his attention to Ashley. "Mrs. Parker, this evidence fundamentally undermines your credibility and your claims in these proceedings." Ashley's voice was barely audible. "Ryan, please, I never meant for it to go this far." But I couldn't save her from this. Not anymore. She had made her choices, and now those choices had consequences. Judge Martinez ruled swiftly and decisively. All premarital assets remained mine. Ashley would not receive the marital home. Custody would be split equally, with no advantage to either parent. Ashley would be responsible for her own legal fees and court costs. Brad's conduct would be investigated by the state bar. It wasn't revenge, it was justice, clean, methodical, and undeniable. As people filed out of the courtroom, I felt lighter than I had in months. Not because I'd destroyed anyone, but because the truth had finally been allowed to speak. The weeks that followed brought their own kind of healing. Ashley moved to a small apartment near Sarah's school. Brad disappeared from Austin's legal scene entirely. Word was, the bar investigation had found multiple ethical violations. Sarah adjusted better than I expected. Teenagers are resilient, and she seemed almost relieved that the tension in our house had finally broken into something honest. I started dating again eventually. Nothing serious, just coffee with a woman I met at Sarah's school events. Someone who asked me about my work and actually listened to the answers. If you've ever been in my position, if someone you trusted has tried to rewrite your story with lies, remember this. You don't need anger to defend yourself. You don't need to destroy anyone to win. You just need to let the truth be loud enough that it drowns out their deception. Because at the end of the day, the truth doesn't need to shout. It just needs to show up when it matters most.